Just after midnight, the inter-island ferry MV Trisha Kerstin 3 sank off the coast of Basilan province. The vessel was traveling from Zamboanga City to Jolo Island with more than 350 people on board, passengers and crew, when it reportedly suffered technical trouble and went under in calm seas. Survivors say there was little warning, darkness, panic, and minutes that felt like hours. Rescue operations launched immediately. Coast Guard and Navy ships moved in, joined by fishing boats, surveillance aircraft, and a military Black Hawk helicopter. Survivors were pulled from the water and rushed to nearby villages. By daylight, officials confirmed more than 300 people had been rescued, but at least 15 bodies were recovered. Others remain unaccounted for. Authorities say the ferry had been cleared for departure and showed no signs of overloading. Weather conditions were stable. The cause of the sinking is still unknown. Investigators are now examining mechanical systems and crew response. In the Philippines, an archipelago of thousands of islands, sea travel is essential, but accidents remain frequent, often exposing deep gaps in vessel maintenance and safety enforcement. The incident comes amid another crisis between China and Philippines brewing at sea. Days earlier, Philippines accused Chinese Coast Guard vessels of firing water cannons and carrying out aggressive maneuvers against Filipino fishermen in disputed South China Sea waters. Manila says the incidents caused injuries and damaged boats and cannot be justified under international law. Philippine officials warn the actions signal a dangerous escalation. The South China Sea is one of the world's busiest and most contested maritime regions, vital for trade, fishing, and security. Incidents like these raise the risk of miscalculation, even as regional tensions continue to rise.
A fresh maritime flashpoint is unfolding in the South China Sea. The Philippines says Chinese Coast Guard vessels used water cannons and aggressive maneuvers against Filipino fishermen in disputed waters. Manila says it is alarmed by the use of water cannons and risky maneuvers that caused injuries and damage to Philippine vessels last week. Officials insist such actions cannot be justified under international law. The Philippines Maritime Council says it will lodge a strong diplomatic protest and demand China immediately cease what it describes as aggressive behavior. A formal démarche is being filed with the Chinese embassy in Manila. China has rejected the accusations. Beijing claims Philippine vessels entered the lagoon to create trouble, ignored repeated warnings, and carried out dangerous course changes. China's foreign ministry alleges Filipino crew members even threatened Chinese Coast Guard officers with knives during law enforcement operations. The Coast Guard says it drove away multiple Philippine vessels and took what it called necessary control measures. The United States has entered the dispute. Washington condemned the use of water cannons and intimidation tactics, saying China's actions undermine regional stability. China has pushed back sharply, accusing the U.S. of interference.
台湾问题是中国核心利益中的核心，是不可逾越的红线。中方坚决反对日本自卫队前统合幕僚长岩崎茂出任台湾当局所谓政务顾问，多次就此向日方提出严正交涉，并对岩崎茂采取反制措施。岩崎非但不思悔改，反而变本加厉。 与台独分裂势力沆瀣一气，一再勾连挑衅，严重违背一个中国原则和中日4个政治文件精神，严重干涉中国内政，严重损害中国主权和领土完整。中方采取 必要处置措施，维护自身领土主权和海洋权益，合理合法，专业克制，无可非议。菲方应该立即停止侵权挑衅和煽宣炒作，停止无休止的上演自编自导的海上闹剧，不要挑战中方维护自身主权和权益的坚定决心。美国不是南海问题的当事方，无权介入当事方之间的涉海问题。美方应该停止发表颠倒黑白、挑动对抗的言论，停止纵容支持菲律宾在南海挑衅生事。
Tensions flared again in the South China Sea as Chinese Coast Guard ships confronted Philippine fishing vessels near Sabina Shoal. According to the Philippine Coast Guard, Chinese ships used powerful water cannons and aggressive blocking maneuvers against 20 Filipino boats. This resulted in injuring 3 fishermen and damaging 2 vessels in a life-threatening encounter. The assault escalated when Chinese personnel aboard smaller rubber boats deliberately cut the anchors of several Philippine boats, leaving crews exposed to strong currents and high waves. Two Philippine Coast Guard ships raced to assist the fishermen, but were met with dangerous blocking maneuvers, with one Chinese vessel reportedly approaching within 35 yards at night. A Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson said, and I quote, "The Chinese Coast Guard is now targeting ordinary fishermen, ordinary civilians, and endangering their lives." Despite the intimidation, the Philippine Coast Guard successfully reached the fishermen, providing medical aid and essential supplies. Authorities urged China to respect internationally recognized standards of conduct, emphasizing that preserving life at sea must come before territorial claims. The South China Sea remains a long-standing flashpoint, claimed almost entirely by China, despite a 2016 UN arbitration ruling invalidating Beijing's expansive claims. The United States, while not a claimant, has repeatedly vowed to defend the Philippines if its forces come under armed attack in these contested waters. Regional tensions are further complicated by claims from Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, highlighting the strategic importance of this key global trade route.
The key point of this incident is that Japanese fighter jets intruded into the area where the Chinese side was conducting exercises without authorization, interfering with China's military activities. They conducted close-in reconnaissance and interference. Furthermore, they even tried to play the victim by hyping up the so-called radar illumination issue, turning facts upside down, shifting blame onto others, and misleading the international community. China is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposes this, and has lodged stern representations and strong protests with the Japanese side. Everything is clear and obvious to everyone. At this time, the Japanese side is deliberately spreading and hyping up false information in the field of military security. Their intention in exaggerating tensions is entirely ulterior. We strongly urge the Japanese side to immediately stop its dangerous actions that disrupt China's normal exercises and training activities. Stop all irresponsible false hype and political manipulation.
Tensions between Japan and China are escalating after Tokyo accused Chinese fighter jets of directing fire control radar at Japanese military aircraft in 2 dangerous encounters near the Okinawa Islands. Japan's defense minister, Shinjiro Koizumi, said the radar illumination went far beyond what was necessary for safe flight and signaled a potential threat. Japan has lodged a formal protest with Beijing over what it described as a regrettable incident. Speaking alongside Australian Defense Minister Richard Marles in Tokyo, Koizumi said Japan would respond resolutely and calmly in order to uphold regional peace and stability.
Thank you all for gathering here today. I would like to report on the incident involving a Chinese military aircraft directing its radar at a self-defense forces aircraft. There were two instances of radar illumination. The first occurred on Saturday, December 6th, between approximately 16:32 and 16:35, when a J-15 fighter jet launched from the Chinese Navy's aircraft carrier Liaoning illuminated an F-15 fighter jet of the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, which was conducting measures against airspace intrusion over international waters southeast of Okinawa Island. There was an incident in which radar illumination was carried out intermittently. Second, between approximately 18:37 and 19:08 on the same day, a J-15 fighter jet launched from the Chinese Navy's aircraft carrier Liaoning intermittently illuminated with radar an Air Self-Defense Force F-15 fighter jet, which was conducting measures against a major airspace intrusion over international waters southeast of Okinawa Island. This was a separate incident from the first one. An incident occurred. This radar illumination was a dangerous act that exceeded the bounds necessary for the safe flight of aircraft. The occurrence of such an incident is extremely regrettable, and we have lodged a strong protest with the Chinese side and firmly requested measures to prevent a recurrence. It should be noted that there was no damage to the Self-Defense Force aircraft or personnel. For further details, the staff will provide a briefing after this, so I would appreciate your attention. That is all from me. Inoue-san, please.
Thank you. That is all.
China has strongly denied the accusation. A Chinese Navy spokesperson, Colonel Wang Shumeng, claimed Japanese aircraft had repeatedly approached and disrupted Chinese naval operations during previously announced carrier-based flight training east of the Miyako Strait. Wang accused Japan of endangering flight safety and demanded that Tokyo stop what he called slander and smearing. He warned that the Chinese Navy would take all necessary measures to protect its security interests. Directing fire control radar at another aircraft is considered a highly aggressive military move, as it signals a potential missile lock-on and could force pilots to take evasive action. Japan has not disclosed whether a full radar lock was achieved or how its aircraft responded. Japan confirmed that the Chinese jets involved were J-15 fighter aircraft launched from the Liaoning aircraft carrier, which was operating south of Okinawa with multiple missile destroyers. Japan scrambled F-15 fighter jets in response. This is not the first such confrontation. Japan says Chinese warships locked radar onto Japanese vessels in 2013, while China accused Japanese aircraft of similar actions in 2016. Just months ago, Chinese jets flew dangerously close to a Japanese patrol aircraft. The incidents come amid worsening China-Japan relations over Taiwan. Tensions have risen sharply since Japanese Prime Minister Sana Takeuchi warned that Japan could respond to any Chinese action against Taiwan that also threatened Japanese security. China has also advised its citizens not to travel to Japan and has paused plans to restart seafood imports that were suspended after Japan released treated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant. China claims Taiwan as its territory and has stepped up military pressure on the island. Taiwan lies just 110 kilometers from Japan's westmost island, Yonaguni, underscoring the strategic risk for Japan. Japan also hosts the largest concentration of U.S. military power overseas, including warships, advanced aircraft, and thousands of U.S. Marines stationed in Okinawa. While the U.S. ambassador to Japan has voiced support for Tokyo, President Donald Trump and other senior U.S. officials have remained publicly silent. However, Trump reportedly urged Japanese leaders last month not to escalate tensions during a phone call. Meanwhile, China has deployed more than 100 naval and Coast Guard vessels across East Asian waters at one point, raising alarm in Taiwan and Japan. Taiwan's Coast Guard says it is currently monitoring fresh Chinese drills near the Taiwan Strait, while accusing Beijing of using misleading language as part of psychological warfare. With military maneuvers intensifying across the region, security analysts warn the Indo-Pacific remains on edge, and the risk of miscalculation is